Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Cryptic Conversations. I'm your host, Tunes from the Crypt, and we have another very special episode in store today. Today's guest is a man named Lucas Galarraga. Lucas is an intuitive empath on a transformative spiritual journey. I actually met him on a very strange and mystical encounter last weekend, so having him on the show and sharing his story with us only felt right. Having encountered his twin flame and experiencing mystical phenomena, Lucas now dedicates himself to showing others that light exists even in the darkest of times. With the mission of spreading kindness and hope, he seeks to uplift and empower those around him. His experiences offer unique insights into the mysteries of the universe, and his message is one of resilience, empathy, and spiritual growth. And I'm honored to have him with us today, so welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So I think for us to start off the show, we'll just talk about how we met last week. It was kind of a strange encounter. So for the listeners, I'm sure many of you are aware, I'm on my spiritual journey. I used to be a raver. I mean, I still am. I've been sober for almost 3 years, so I've been going out a lot less. I've been on the spiritual side of things, and I've been real busy with the podcast and the music and all that. Anyways, it was last weekend, and I think, I believe everything is cyclical. Time is cyclical. We have habits and patterns. And last weekend was supposed to be Nocturnal Wonderland. It's a rave that I hold dearly in my heart, and I used to go every year. And, I wasn't planning on going this year. And there was the fire that happened, so it got canceled. But there was something inside of me that still wanted to go out. I still wanted to go out. And, I didn't even have a plan. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go on this solo adventure and we'll see where the night takes me. I knew that there was an underground rave, but that didn't start till midnight. And so I just said, you know what, I'll head to LA, and there's this brewery that I like to park at. And I was like, and I'll just figure it out from there. So I drove to the brewery, and then I remember even having a moment there as I was sitting there. I was like, what am I doing, man? Like, what am I doing? I'm alone, like, why am I going out, dude? I should just go home. I'm too old for this stuff, And I was like, you know what, just go, go for the adventure. You know what I mean? So I was all right. So first things first, I needed some coffee. So I was like, all right, let me go to this. I looked up on Google Maps, like, where's a Starbucks nearby? And so I just walked over to the Starbucks. I was like, all right, let me get my caffeine. And that way I could charge my phone at the same time. But when I went to the Starbucks, there was no outlet. So I couldn't charge my phone. I was like, damn. So now I need to find a place to charge my phone. And nearby that Starbucks was Little Tokyo. It was this Little Tokyo Plaza, and it looked so cool. And I was like realizing, like, dude, I've been in Southern California like my whole life, and I've never gone over there. Like, it looked cool. Like, let me go check it out. So my intuition, right? Like, something just guided me. Something was calling me to go that way. And so I just start walking. I have my cup of coffee, and I'm just kind of people watching and all that. And I'm walking down the plaza, and I'm like trying to find a place to charge my phone. And at the back end of the plaza, there was this like stage with like a fountain, and I see that there's two outlets there, and they're being used. Someone is charging their phone, and it looked like they were plugging in their wheelchair, but there was no one there. And so I just assumed it seemed like a homeless person, and I was like, oh, I'll just wait for them to get back. I'll wait for them to get back, and I'll ask them if I could find another outlet. And I see the guy, and he starts walking over there. He starts coming back, and I could see he kind of was struggling to walk. And then I was kind of like helping him to his chair, and he sat down, and I was like, hey, what's your name or whatever? Just start talking to him. I was like, hey, is there, do you know of another outlet? And he was like, no, but I'm going to leave right now. And I was like, oh, like, are you sure? And he was like, so kind, so nice. He was like, yeah, I'm going to leave right now. You could use it. And I was like, okay, like, is there anything that I can get you? Like, I just felt for this guy. And he's like, you know what, actually, like, could you get me a blanket? Me and my son, we're sleeping down the street over here. We're cold. And I was like, oh yeah, dude, of course. Like, let me go find something for you, And I couldn't find a blanket, but I found some nice warm leggings. And so I brought him back to him. He was so appreciative. And I saw him, go towards the supermarket over there. And then I'm sitting there and I'm charging my phone. And then I see him come back. And then you walked up. You walked up right there, and you had a bag full of items. And I just see this guy just start handing him all this stuff. And I see that he was wearing the same spiritual beads as me. And then we just kind of connected right there, and dude, we sat and had a deep conversation about our journeys and all that. So I'll let you take it away from here. Go ahead and tell your version of the story and everything.
Sure thing. I was driving back to Los Angeles from Zion, Utah. So it was about a 7.5 hour drive, long drive. Uh, I wanted to originally maybe stop in Vegas for a little bit, but hotels were so expensive and so forth. I was like, you know what? Something was calling me to come back to LA. Driving to LA, get to the downtown area. I was already planning, like, I'm just going to go wash my car. I live in West LA, so for some strange reason, I got a pull to go to Little Tokyo. Like my intuition was telling me go to Little Tokyo. So I was thinking about it. I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm craving Japanese food. So I was like, you know what? I need a rest. Kept driving, and then my intuition kept pulling me. So I took the exit and started going down Los Angeles. And then couldn't find parking, but my intuition was just telling me very strongly, I need to go to Little Tokyo. So eventually I found parking, and behind Little Tokyo, there's this garden that's kind of like subterranean, and I think you have to go to like a museum in order to access it. So I was there at the garden. Sorry, before I got there, my intuition told me go out with a with my can of Pringles that I had bought for my trip. I was like, all right, well, can I see where this is going? But all right, I'll take it to go donate it to somebody. So I'm there. I'm asking Source God, why am I here? I'm here for a reason. And I just start walking. It's like, all right, it's going to unravel itself. I'm looking. I really don't see anybody. And then I walk past that one plaza that you were saying that there's the Chargers. Usually people perform there. And I keep walking towards the end. And then I see a gentleman being barely able to walk. And he was going through the trash looking for food. So I right there and then I knew the Pringles was for him. So I asked him if he was hungry, and he said yes. And I gave him the can of Pringles, and um, and he said thank you. And I continued walking. I was trying to see like, or else, what else am I doing here? So at some point, doing my circles, I see him back, kind of trembling on the wheelchair, and I felt so terrible seeing him trembling. It's just seeing everybody walking by and not seeing him. I saw him. I felt it. I felt his cold. I was wearing a sweater. So, so like I felt it deep in me. I was like, I just felt so terrible. So I just, first instinct was to just take off my green sweater and give it to him and ask him, is there something I can do for him? And he said, if you have any clothes, please, my son and I are in the street. The kind gentleman is buying me a blanket right now. So then I told him, don't go anywhere, stay here. I'll be back. I just came back from a trip. I have some clothes in my car, but it's far, and just come back. I mean, I can quickly run to the car and back, and I don't have to burden him in having to push himself all the way to where I'm at. So I told him I'll be right back, and I left. So around that time was when you came back and you were talking to him. And when I was coming back, I ended up going kind of like through a little alley. So I didn't come through the normal way that everybody does comes. I just came from freaking out of nowhere and surprised him. And I got all the clothes that I did not wear, all the extra uh, food I had and energy drinks. It was only kind enough just to clothe him and whatever money I had cash that I didn't spend on the trip. And it's funny because I was like, you know what? I don't gamble, but took 80 bucks out, tried gambling, lost 40. I was like, all right, you know what? The other 40, I need to hold it on for something else. So I listened to the intuition. I was like, all right. And then that was like perfect. I was like, maybe he's like, if you have shoes or something can help. And I didn't have any shoes. I looked at his feet. His shoes were destroyed, but I had sandals. So definitely got him sandals, all the clothes that I can get. And I put them in a bag and I went to go give it to him, just wishing him and his son well, because I've been blessed to be able to take care of myself, help my family out, and so forth. But there's been moments where my family fell into financial times. My father was diagnosed with a brain tumor when he was little, started when I was little, and he lost his vision. And going from a very well-off family to almost in the street, and if it wasn't for the kindness of strangers, God knows what would have happened. So with that experience, it's always helped me to be humble and help those in need, if possible. So, I wished him well. I think after like I gave him a hug. Actually, he asked for a hug, so I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, here, a hug. And then he left, and then you were looking at me surprised, and that's how it began.
Yeah, I bet you I was looking at you surprised, and I think the key takeaway that I want to share with the audience is, like you said, how many people just walk by, man. You see it all the time. they call them invisible people for a reason. They're like our invisible neighbors. They're invisible, right? Everybody is so busy with their lives, they just walk right past them. And homeless people have always, struck a nerve with me. I don't know why. Just I've, before I used to, not help them out as much, but lately after my journey, I realized that we're all one. I see through the illusion of separation, and I see that we're all one. And it's like we have to help each other out. We're the collective. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about we. It's about all of us. Like we have to help them out, man. Like if they're hungry, bro, like if they're cold, dude, like dude, I just want to encourage the listeners, like if you can, man, like if you can find it in your heart, we all have plenty of food. We got a little bit of money in our bank, like, reach out, man, like help them. I actually fed another homeless person today, it was like, and just seeing the look on her face, just how happy she was. Like she was so hungry, dude. Like who knows when the last time she was that she ate, so I just want to encourage the listeners to consider that. So I'd like to ask you, so do you believe that our encounter was guided by a higher power, and how do you interpret signs like this?
Sure. So to back up a little bit, when I was in Zion, I went there to be surrounded by nature just to get away from everybody for a little bit, to improve my relationship with, I call God, but it can be the universe, source, Allah, whoever, or Shiva. Um, and, aside from growing wiser, kinder, more forgiving towards myself and others, I asked to meet more like-minded people because there's there's a good amount of us, but we're too shy to talk about it, or we don't even realize the changes that we're going through. So the mind is a powerful tool, and when you ask the universe, you will get it back, all in timing. So I've been asking to meet like-minded people, and aside from me, also asking Source how I can be of service, how can I help someone. It was a two-part, mission in Tokyo that was given. It was to help that gentleman, and then also, for you to see that there's someone with a similar mindset, similar beliefs, that you have been seeing with me. That's what I've been manifesting, meeting like-minded people. So I felt that what I asked for, I got back. So I wanted me more like-minded people, and I was divinely guided to do that, and of course help the gentleman that was in the wheelchair.
Yeah, it's like when I think about your story that night, it's just so strange, how you were driving on the freeway, like you're heading home, but something good told you no, little Tokyo, and you said you were seeing 333 and stuff like that, right? It's so strange.
Yes. So I do see angelic numbers. I've been learning what they mean, what they guide. 333 is ascended masters. So it's definitely like divine, you're getting help. And I from what I've learned is when you see 333, like ask for guidance, go somewhere that's spiritual, special for you. So for me, that garden in Little Tokyo, in Metro LA, that's like where I can go and ground myself and feel to be in nature around this urban jungle. So that was immediately stopped. Like, let me go there and figure out what's going on, ask for guidance and see, the pool. And I resonate a lot with Christ, what he's done for us and so forth. I wish I have his heart, and I'm working on being kind and loving towards everybody. We're all brothers and sisters. We all need to love, forgive, help, and work as a collective. And the world would be so much better if there wasn't jealousy, hatred, or anything of those lines, that we all looked at each other like we're all one. Then I think it would be better for all of
Yeah.
us.
I'm curious, he told me when I met him, the homeless man, his name is Ronald Troy Collins, and he told me, hey, like check me out. He's got a documentary, Mighty Ground. And so the next day I literally watched it. Did you watch it?
Yeah, real deal. I mean, he wasn't lying. He wasn't lying. And what breaks my heart is this was since 2017 when the documentary came out. He was able to walk, able bodied, he looked strong.
Yeah,
So from 2017 to 2024, it's just amazing how his body just, took impact. And
yeah,
he still manages to smile and be kind and say thank you. And
yeah.
he's not bitter, he's not angry. He's just in gratitude. And from the documentary, he loves singing, and
He's
it's
a
just
great singer. He's a
very
fabulous
touching.
singer.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm glad you watched it, because I thought the same thing. Like I was watching it and I was looking at the guy in the movie and I was like, wait, is that him? And it was like, yeah, like it shows like how much he's aged. He's gone downhill over these 7 years,
yeah,
That's that's what the streets can do to you, and drugs. When you get addicted to drugs, it's that's the thing that he struggled with is crack, And so, I'm sending my love to him, sending my blessings,
Yeah,
and I'm also gonna link the video in the YouTube description so people can watch it. It was a great movie. It was a beautiful movie.
agreed,
So
agreed.
so yeah, so kind of moving on, like so talk to me about your early life. Where did you grow up? Where'd you go to school, and what was your family like?
Sure. So I was born in Baños, Ecuador, which is a small town in the mountains, and ended up coming here, going back and forth. My father was a U.S. citizen, and he met my mom in Ecuador when he was doing some volunteer uh, work, and we ended up coming here permanently in 1990. So, ironically, around that time is when my dad's tumor went in full effect, lost his vision. So, um, growing up in Culver City, Mar Vista area, it's just been, my mom had to step up and help the family. And my dad's countless operations back then, brain operations, they literally had to cut the skull in different sections to get to the tumor. Now it can be done through the nose or through the side of like your ribs. It's amazing technology how far it's gone. But back then it was just it was crazy. So I feel a lot of like fear and so forth was stemmed through that, not necessarily because of what my parents did or anything, just seeing parents suffering and painful, you absorb that. You're a little kid, you may not remember, but you carry on. So I've been in Culver City my whole life. So I went to Culver Middle School, Culver High School. I went to Santa Monica College. I did the Air Force ROTC program a little bit at UCLA. I was thinking of becoming an officer, but I had an injury, and at the time during Operation Enduring Freedom, they wanted the most of able bodies to go. We were in war, so I felt that that was an intervention, that my path was not the military. So I tried psychology, and I realized that memorizing the biology terms is not for me. But computers, on the other hand, I'll remember that stuff left and right. So I follow computers, and my profession is I'm a director of IT support. So I deal with servers and customer service experience for our clients, our internal people, and so forth. So I do IT, at an enterprise level for a company over 500 people, and I like it. It's great. I learn a lot and so forth, and I like helping people. So it kind of makes sense getting into a field that you interact and you help people. I help our executives. So I help the president himself, the founder of our company. I help her. So I take care of some of the most important people. And I always feel we all have our strengths, our weaknesses. I'm good with computers, but I'm a terrible cook. But I know there's many wonderful cooks and terrible at computers, so we all balance each other out. And my family is primarily Catholic. My father was a little spiritual, and I regret not tapping more into his mind and so forth. He taught me just enough that when he passed, I kind of had a blueprint of where to go, like how to seek help and so forth. Like definitely, he told me the importance of faith, and no matter the darkest of times. And I've seen the divine. I mean, my dad should have died many times, but he survived. So that there alone, it was there. And I'd see my parents always praying for us, for things to get better and so forth. And things did get better. We were not homeless. We had food. We had a roof over our head. And our parents were able to make miracles sometimes. Go to Disneyland, go to other places. So very grateful for what our parents did for us, and also for the universe protecting me. I remember one time when I was about 4 years old, I was by a river, a very, very dangerous river, uh, where they go rafting and people even die. So back when I lived in that town, it was very, very tiny. Little kids can go wherever they wanted. It was the countryside. But by the river, there was these wild raspberries, and those were the best raspberries that you can get. So I was literally trying to grab this huge raspberry, and I thought I was going to slip and fall into the river, but something yanked me from my overalls, yanked me back, and I kind of fell back. And then I looked around and I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. And there was nobody there. So I've always felt that there was something protecting me. And I've seen it happen to many, many times throughout life. And, one of the things that I learned is most of us start our spiritual awakening, our ascendancy through a tragic event. Could be a heartbreak, could be loss of a loved one, could be loss of work. It's just something very tragic that like literally just makes you hit rock bottom, And then from rock bottom, like the phoenix, you rise up and you face these things that have plagued you your whole life and you never knew where these things were coming from, and help be kinder to yourself, forgive yourself, be at peace with yourself, and in turn be kinder to other people. Be able to find like-minded people, attract love, abundance, peace, and so forth. So things that through spirituality has helped me definitely more than partying, than girls, than traveling, things that just like a band-aid for the time being. But you have to face it sooner or later. And thanks to, spirituality has helped me understand my body, my mind, my heart, my soul. And I just barely started this journey like a little over a year ago. And I've made so much progress. And one little thing I did want to say, those who feel that they started their journey late, like I did, I was like, man, I wish I would have started my journey earlier. Life would be so much better. But all happens in divine timing. So,
Hmm.
just keep in mind everything is happening and you are where you're supposed to be. And if something's off, just listen to your voice, trust it, and it will guide you to where you need to be.
I love that. That was great advice. Yeah, so something that you touched on there, I completely agree with you. Like, dude, I've tried it all too, man. The drugs, the alcohol, the women, the relationships. I've tried it all, but nothing has fulfilled me the way spirituality has. I feel great, man. Like I've been riding this high of of awakening, of enlightenment. It's been a couple of years now since my dark night, since my ayahuasca retreat, and I just feel great. And so I really encourage the listeners to find their own version of their spirituality. So I'd like to ask you, so you kind of touched on it. So it seems like your upbringing was more religious, and I know we kind of talked about it a little bit at the plaza. I think you said you went through a tough breakup and you were in that dark night. So talk to us a little bit more about your dark night of the soul, and what led you to your to finding spirituality this past year.
Sure. So I feel that there are some people that come into your life that are meant to push you to reach ascendancy. People call it karmic relationships. So, who I thought was the one, I've known her in high school. We reconnected 20 years later. Everything was perfect. It was like, you know, it was her idea to get married. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And just as the date came closer, everything just came crashing to a complete halt. It just one small argument just showed both of our sides of, you know, our work that we need to do independently. And she, rather than her wanting to face the things together and so forth, she, just pushed away and retreated and just kind of hightailed it. I was so devastated. I was in the country. All these crazy thoughts were running through my head. I never been one to think that suicide is the answer, but that was in my head. And, I was hearing stuff and I I don't know if anybody's had witchcraft done to them, but that's no joke. Be careful with who you interact with because jealousy can drive people to do malintent things. And it was my ex's family that did that to both of us. So I was in such a low place. Like I didn't know, I thought I was gonna die. Like I was in so much more pain than when my dad died and when my dogs died. It was just this pain that I was like, I'm dying. I'm dying that I like literally called everybody who I felt close, comfortable with, like pleading for help. And of course, everybody's freaking out. So I'm like, how's he that? Whoa, what's going on? Like asking for help and whatnot. And they're like, get out of there. So I literally just, I ended up having to pay like expensive price for a business class ticket to get out of Brazil. And I came back home and the way I knew life was over, it was dead. It was gone. I didn't know who I was, what to believe, what to think, what to feel. Uh, all I knew is that my family was there. They were worried. I was worried. And all I can think about was just going to God. So I was going to church and praying and asking, why did this happen? What did I do? Why me? What's going on? And I started therapy and trying to get to bottom, like, why am I so heartbroken? Why am I so like devastated? Why am I like lost the will to live? And at this point I was desperate. I was like, I I started looking at different sources. I started looking, I remember my dad mentioning a long time ago stones and chakras. At the time, I had no idea what that was. And I know, like, in spiritual places, there's usually like mediumship and so forth. So I was like, all right, like getting all these lists of these numbers and kind of calling and kind of inquiring a little bit before like jumping the gun. And I was like, all right, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And then I actually found a medium who she could tell I was distressed, and I didn't give any details, but she literally just said everything right there and then what I went through. So that was the real deal. There are people who are that have that gift, that divine gift. And what she was telling me is like, you need to be closer to God. She gave me the term karmic relationship. She gave me the term, twin flame. She gave me the term about, being one with God, trusting with God, the timing, the process, and that I need to love myself. I need to take care of myself first in order to take care of someone else. You need to stop putting people on pedestals. You have to fill your cup with love, self-love. And then when someone else comes in, then it's an overpour, an overflow. And then that's how things will be. And the universe has been testing me many times with these failed relationships. It's like, what have you been doing the whole time? Everybody's walked out on you, everybody's left you because you put them on a pedestal and you're not learning your lesson. And the universe is going to keep teaching you the lesson until you learn. And I was like, all right. And then that's when, she's like, start learning about the chakras, what they do, and so forth. Look into Reiki. And I started doing a little bit of Reiki, and it uh from the breakup into that event, I felt like my heart, like there was a big stone on my chest, and no matter what I did, it was there present. And I can go to sleep and I can wake up like all like nervous and shaking and high anxiety and so forth. And as soon as I started, doing Reiki, and then she also told me like, you need to stop listening to sad music because the words are so powerful. The vibrational music is powerful. So you need to stop listening to that stuff. You need to like listen to, things to help heal what you're feeling. If you're having anxiety, go look on YouTube. Frequent vibrational frequencies for anxiety, for stress, for body aches, for migraines, even for hangovers. For those who like to drink, yes, they have that for that too. I've tried it; it helps. Doesn't cure it, but it helps a lot. And it's it's amazing, what the frequencies do. Like I'm not an expert in it. I know you're more of that, but it works. It helps, and it helped me grounded. So I started doing things differently. TV. I like watching action movies, violence movies, and so forth. But I cannot really watch that anymore. I cannot watch the news, all that stuff. I used to like watch real news, no BS. I don't want to say anything cursing, but they showed videos of like as raw as war can be. And that stuff is just negative. And I learned to like, all right, I need to be mindful of what I watch, what I say, what I think, because you're attracting that. And even video games, I love video games. So I was like, man, Resident Evil 4 remake came out. Hell yeah, I've been waiting for it. And I tried playing it and I just started feeling terrible. I just cannot play it. And I was like, all right, it's true. My body's changing, my mind's changing. My body sometimes just wants me to eat greens, healthy food, and I'm so used to eating like crap, like burgers and all that. But no, your body starts changing, you start changing, and the more you start reading into it, scriptures and teachings that mostly are from the Hindu people. There are some stuff from the China, Asia region. I don't really know yet um, about yin yang, but at least for like the Hinduism, I started reading. I'm halfway through the Bhagavad Gita, which is a scripture about you know being kind, doing good, helping, and so forth. So it's helped me, you know, like see things from another world. And um, I love Christ. I am a Christian of Christian faith and so forth, but I know there's much more than the Bible. And spirituality, I feel, complements Christianity, and it helps enforce my faith in the divine, in God, in helping others. Because if if it didn't, if there was something that the universe needed to intervene, it's done it to me so many times. So I know I'm I'm in a good path. If it wasn't, it would have let me know. And I prayed, I've asked, and I don't have full development. I mean, I can feel like when I'm guided to do something for sure, or something just randomly comes into my head, like I know. Uh, I'm hoping one day I can develop and be able to help others and ask source right there and then and guide. I've ended up making some friends in Connecticut where I I went to Connecticut and then I was charging my Tesla and I forgot my stones that I take with me everywhere. I was like, you know what, let me go grab a stone. And I looked up for like spiritual places and there was two. There was one I was closer and there was one I was further. I was going to close in like half an hour. And I was trying to go to the further one. So I was like, all right, let me go to the further one. I drive to the further one. I get there and I walk in and there was people sitting in a circle. And the lady's like, are you here for the class? And I'm like, no, here to look around. And they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like looking around and so forth. And one of the guys is all like, oh, do you have time? And I'm like, for? He's like, there's a class on mediumship abilities and talk about spirituality. You should join us. And I could see that they had an extra chair already set up before I came in. And I was like, $10, whatever. Sat down and, they're all looking at me like they were expecting me. And the guy, smiling. And I can tell he's very like intuitive. He's very like he can read people's thoughts and so forth. He's like, we were manifesting you. We were manifesting for man to come and join our circle. So they had exercises to develop, like their intuition. I sucked at it because I'm too much in my, at the time I was too much in my head, right? You have to surrender and let go. But, I was too in my head, but more what I took it is the power of the mind, you asking the universe for something, the universe giving it to you in divine timing, because they've been asking for somebody to come by. And, I randomly, some guy from not even Connecticut just ended up showing up. It just shows how crazy the universe can align things.
Mhm.
And I ended up, making friends there who are spiritual people who they were going through their journeys. I mean, they've been doing it for many, many years. So, they're advanced. And again, I didn't say anything to them, but they're like, you need to love yourself, you need to forgive yourself, you need to forgive others. Things are going to get better. We can feel like your heart chakra is heavy and so forth. I'm just like, okay, well, thank you. And with one of them, I still keep in touch to this day, and she's just like she shared with me her story because our stories are very, very similar. And another thing that I wanted to mention that I almost forgot is uh, the lady that I first saw and I was kind of confused. Her name is Ingrid Romano. Um, and she's very spiritual. She knows a lot. She doesn't do much spiritual work right now. She's taking a break, but she like looked at me like she knew me. I looked at her like I knew her. And again, the guy, who's very intuitive and so forth, he was smiling the whole time, and he's all like, "Ask her, ask her, ask her." I'm like, what is? How's he getting into my head? And I swear, I've seen this lady before, uh, but we haven't. It was our first time meeting,
Yeah.
and she's like, we've met before in another lifetime, and that's why you're so like in shock to see me. Because when I first saw her, my first thing in my head was Jedi Master. Like I saw her like as a teacher, and I didn't say anything to anybody because that's, if people start telling me my thoughts and so forth, I'm like, all right, you're pretty much the real deal. But she was like, yeah, me and you, we've had uh, past lifetimes of like a mentor-student relation, like teaching you and so forth. And, you know, I was just taken aback and yeah, it's one of those mysterious things that the universe works. I'm still trying to figure some stuff out. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my journey so far now. And then trying to be closer to God, coming back to LA, I met you.
Yeah, wow. There's a lot to unpack there. That's awesome. I feel like I almost feel like God is guiding you to become a medium or something, to explore your abilities a little bit more.
I certainly hope so. I definitely would like to help others. And Ingrid has guided me and helped me too, where, there's some things that you may feel lost or confused, and you may get a little guide because the universe doesn't always want you to know everything in advance. The universe wants things to roll out as a surprise because if you know in advance,
Yeah.
then you might mess it up. So, it was just when I thought I was like, okay, in healing, it was like, she's like, no, there's still, you still need to dig a little bit further back on trauma. So you need to make, peace with your dad because he passed unexpectedly and we couldn't resolve our differences. Um, so I would like to, I'm working on to being able, whether I get the mediumship abilities or not, I feel like my role here is to, to shine the light on for people, to turn on the lamp and say, man, it's not over, like you can do this. Because only you can help yourself. I can cheer, I can support you, and I will, but you gotta take the steps, man. Like, if you fall, I'll hold you, but you gotta take the steps, and that's what I find joy in doing and helping.
Yeah, man, you're wise, man. You're very wise beyond your years. You have a lot of wisdom.
Thank you.
Everything you just said right there. And I feel like a lot of it is common sense, right? But a lot of people in society don't have common sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
you'd be surprised.
yeah, so stuff that you just said, and it's like stuff that I'm always talking about. It's just so powerful is that, I'm always saying, like consumption is not just what you eat. We need to be watching the right things on TV, listening to the right music, eating healthy, or being around the right people. It's all encompassing. It's not just what you eat. And it's a thought that's coming to my mind is, my sister, for example. I love her, but she's a very emotional person. Her emotions are all over the place, and she likes to listen to the sad music, and she goes in these moods. And I'm thinking about it. One of my good friends, when I was in my early 20s, we would go to, there was a year there where, dude, me and him had some wild times going to raves. Like that whole year we went to all the raves, and he ended up dying after that. Like he went down
Oh man.
he went down the wrong path. He overdosed on heroin. And I think about him, and it's like, dude, the music that he used to listen to, he loved like this music that talked about like drugs and sad emo music, and look at how he went out, so it's like that's something that's so subtle. And it's like I think people really need to, pay attention to the music that you're listening to.
And it's very well, first of all, it's toxic, but it's also very addicting. You know, who hasn't found themselves addicted to listening to sad music and be stuck on it and listening and listening and listening? And they're like, wow, they couldn't understand me and so forth. But instead of healing, it's amplifying pain.
Yeah, and especially like Mexican music and Spanish songs, those love songs, the heartbreak, like I was at the Starbucks and that song came on, the Adios Amor, and it was like, dude, it took me back, it's like that puts you in a dark place.
Yeah.
So I think I'll just tell you real quick a little bit. I think I told you at the plaza, but real quick about my journey. It was like, as a kid, just always being so sensitive. I just always felt different than people. I've always been a deep thinker. If people only knew like how much time I spent alone in nature, just pondering, reflecting, like what is the meaning of life? Like I've done that a lot throughout my whole life. And anyways, you go to school and you kind of live a normal life. You go to school, like that's all we have to do, right? But I think after school is when things really started to happen for me. Your 20s, right? There's a lot of pain that comes from your 20s, because your first
Mhm.
love, learning virginity, losing your virginity, your first love, all these things, right? I feel like a lot of pain comes from your 20s. And yeah, I had my heartbreaks, and I did a lot of partying, man, a lot of drinking, and it's like looking back on it, it was not good for my energy. And basically what happened, it was like then it was like I had a paranormal experience, and I thought I was possessed, man. I thought I was cursed because it was just a lot of setbacks, a lot of problems. It was just like over and over. It was like a car accident, and I had enough money to get another car, and then that one broke down, and then another car accident. It was like, and dude, the one car accident, dude, I flipped upside down on the freeway, and dude, I hydroplaned across the whole freeway in the
Oh
rain,
man.
and I flipped upside down, and my airbags didn't go off, and I came out of that accident completely fine. And I came out and I was like, all right, I'm alive, like checking my limbs, like, and I was just like that specific moment is, and I didn't grow up religious. I'm kind of the opposite of you. I didn't grow up religious at all. But after that experience, I started to believe, I started to question. I was like, man, that was a divine intervention. Like someone or something is looking out for me. And so that kind of planted a seed for me. But yeah, into my late 20s, I think COVID had a big impact on it too. Just that darkness of all that, dealing with all that. And But yeah, it was like a couple of heartbreaks and all these car accidents, and then this group of friends, they started to switch up on me, like one of my good friends, and I just felt so alone. And so I started to get sober, and I remember it was like New Year's Eve, like 2 years ago. I was alone on New Year's Eve, and I just remember looking out my balcony window, and it was nighttime, and it was just so dark, and I felt so dark, and I didn't know what to do. Like I've never been suicidal, but I think that was like the closest I got. I was like, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't feel right. And I was like, let me go smoke weed. Let me see if that'll fix it. And I went on my balcony, and I don't smoke. And I smoked weed on my balcony, and it was just dark, and that made it even worse. And then I just didn't know what to do. Like, and then my mind started racing, and I just went to sleep and had to sleep it off. And then at that point I knew, I was like, dude, I need to figure it out. Like, I don't want my family to worry, like I have to figure this out for myself. So I started to go to therapy. I did hypnotherapy, and then that led me to an ayahuasca retreat, and the ayahuasca retreat was just the man, like the cherry on top of my life story. It completely changed my life. And it was such a profound experience. And so I've been kind of, I'm such a different person now, and I just have all this wisdom now, all this knowledge. I consider myself a little enlightened, a little awakened, but I do understand that it's also a journey, and I'll be continuing this journey. It's like I loved what you said earlier too. I was literally saying it to myself today about how I'm filling up my cup. Like I'm right now, I'm filling up my cup so that way I
Yeah.
can help fill other cups, because you can't fill from an empty cup, and so that's the journey that I'm on and that you're on. And it's really amazing. Life makes sense, right? It's like all the pain, all the setback, like when you're in it, when you're in the depths of it, it doesn't make sense. But once you come out of it, you're like, oh yeah, all these situations happen for a reason. It led me to my highest timeline.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree. And to me, it just made sense. Everything on why I went through what I went through. It has helped me be the person who I am today, and I am grateful for who I am today. I'm grateful that I grew up. I'm not partying or going crazy. I'm a responsible person, a good person, kind person. Working on loving myself more, and and of course, working on helping people at a much broader scale. Like I told you, I've been able to help on a one-on-one thing, but I still haven't found yet what I can do to help more in masses for what you're doing. I really appreciate what you're doing to help bring awareness to others. And that's why I was like, yeah, man, if my story can help people, please, by all means, I'd be happy to be on your show.
Awesome. I love that, and you'll find your thing, like whatever it is, you'll find it. So I was taking a look at the notes that you submitted for this episode, and it said, so you said you've been spiritually attacked or cursed, or you felt like you were, can you share a little bit more about those
Sure,
experiences?
sure. And that's one of the things where I cautioned about, if you know people who are using those kind of dark methods, to better to steer clear. But um, you know, in South America, it's witchcraft is very normal. It's very practiced. People do it for various reasons. And I've woken up in the middle of the night where the room smelled horrible. Smelled like sulfur, like somebody didn't flush the toilet. I've seen dark objects. I've been choked where I I'm awake. I know I'm awake because I'm like looking at my phone. I'm looking left and right, and like I feel like something's pinning me out, but I can barely move. And then like I just start praying and rejecting. Because I remember a long time ago there was this book by Father Malachi Martin called "Hostage to the Devil," where he talked about his exorcisms. And the first thing I learned is if you're scared of evil possessions and so forth, they're going to go on you like no other. But you have to invite them. Fear invites them. But if immediately you start rejecting them and you start praying and you start calling for help, they will leave you alone. And, that's the times that it's happened. I had to do that. I had to, pray and ask for help and guidance for the divine. And it's just, you know, like on one time I could barely breathe, but as I prayed more and I was rejecting it, and I was rejecting it with anger. I was like, "How dare you come and try to do this to me? Whoa, no, I reject you. I only allow the purest of light to reach me. Only the purest of light can touch me." And with that determination and motivation, it's left me alone. Those times that it's happened before, and my advice for people is, yeah, just don't ever fall into fear. Fear won't get you anywhere. Instead it's holding you back.
Yeah, I love that. That's very wise advice, and that's why I've always had such a resonation with the yin yang symbol because I understand that this reality it really is. It's light and it's dark. Look, you got
Mhm.
day, you got night, you got light and dark. Masculine, feminine. You got it's all encompassing, and I understand that. And I kind of I didn't tell the story, but of how I told you what happened after you left the plaza. There was a fight that broke out, and it was the thought that I had that came to my mind. It was like, wow, like two light beings like were right here, and then the darkness had to come, and like that's what I thought. I could be wrong, but just real quick to tell you what happened again. It was so strange. Literally right after you left, it was like 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes after you left, there's like this cholo couple. I don't want to like stereotype or whatever, but they were like they look kind of like gangster. They had face tattoos and stuff, and they're sitting right there on the plaza. And this homeless man, you could tell like he was in the depths of like mental illness, kind of homeless, like and like you said, you don't want to mess with these people. They have nothing to lose. You know what I mean? He was one of those kind, and he was like starting to fight with them. And I was watching. I was like, man, like, damn, I just had a nice time connecting with this guy, and then now this is happening. I'm just watching it. Like, what do I do? Do I get involved? I'm just gonna watch. Like, I don't know what to do, and I'm watching this whole thing play out. And he's literally about to fight the boyfriend. It was like a boyfriend and a girlfriend. He's literally about to fight. They're about to fight. And I'm like, oh man, this is getting crazy. And then the girl had a smoothie in her hand, and she thought it was funny, dude. Like she chucked it at him, hit the homeless guy in the head, and exploded and it spilled all over his clothes. And she thought it was funny, dude. And she started running down the plaza, and she was laughing, dude. I was like, geez, she was laughing. She thought it was funny, and then you start hearing those laughs turn to screams because the guy was chasing after her and he was getting close. And then they broke into the sushi restaurant and commotion in there, and
Oh
yeah,
man.
a crowd starts following them, and I'm following them like, oh, what's gonna happen? They start fighting in the restaurant and all that, and then security had to come and like get them out. And I don't know if you know, but I didn't know this either. There must be a button where it sounds the alarm, and like the sirens and the alarms were going off for the whole little Tokyo Plaza. It was just going off. Like I think they can push a
Oh,
button for the cops to come or whatever. It was so crazy.
yeah, I know wherever there's light, darkness is nearby, and vice versa. When there's darkness, there's light as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if, darkness was trying to work its way in because I mean, I do remember people were looking at us when we were helping him and the gentleman and getting him things and so forth and listening to him and him telling us, a story. Like I did see some curious eyes and so forth, and I did feel some people judging, like, why are you giving this guy stuff, kind of things.
Oh
I
wow.
personally don't care, but I did feel like there was, I don't know who it was, but there was, I felt a couple energies of people like were just judging, being like, why are you helping this man out? And I mean, it's to expect, there's both good and bad people out there. I just learned not to take it personal and go based what I feel is right. Of course, what source asks me. But yeah, like when you told me, I wasn't surprised. I was like, oh man, that sucks. And I was like, I hope nobody got hurt. Uh, but
Yeah.
just shows that, there's darkness is there.
Yeah.
And
Okay. So kind of moving on. So, another story that you told me, which I thought was pretty cool. You were telling me about when you went to Zion. If you can tell the listeners about what happened to you at Zion when you went out there.
yeah, so I went to Zion to improve my relationship with God. Um, I've been this whole year just been taking care of my mother from her surgery. Didn't really, I didn't feel comfortable traveling too far or vacation. Work was crazy. My sister is in LA, and I've been manifesting like, let me have a great summer before I turn 40 in November. And lo and behold, the Real Hotel sent me an invitation, complimentary stay in Vegas. Thought it was fake, but no, it was real. They're like, come early September, use it or lose it. I said, sure, let's go. So I spontaneously was like, all right, let me go. And I was thinking like, I'm not sure whether to go to Zion or to go to Sedona again. But uh, one of my friends said, you should go to Zion. Out of nowhere, when I just told her, oh, I'm probably going to go to Vegas or something, she's like, go to Zion. It's only 2.5 hours away. It's beautiful. It's very nice, very spiritual. You'll like it. And I was like, done. Because I was like, I wasn't sure what to do. And I was like, God, can you give me a sign? And then my friend randomly goes and tells me that. I'm like, okay, no problem. So I go to Zion and, I had her at work earlier that I actually went to the park like Friday I had work earlier that day, and where I wanted to go, there was an accident and it was closed off. They were not allowing people to go there, but I was like, I'm going to try anyway. So I go in and I see the park ranger, and like, sir, where do I pay? And he's like, oh no, it's okay, you can go in. I'm like, no, no, like, where do I pay? He's like, no, no, you're good, don't worry. Like, appreciate you offering to pay. I guess the person who was handling the money was on break or something, but I was like, all right, well, thanks, no problem. The bus that I was supposed to take, like, I missed it by a minute, and I was like, whatever, I'm already here. And then second bus came, and I got on, and the guy's telling me, he's like, oh, stop number 8 is closed off to public because of an accident. Somebody uh, had a heat stroke, hit their head, and the helicopter is on their way. So it's been sealed off. And I was like, all right, well, I was like, can like I stop in stop number 7 and maybe see later on if stop number 8 is good? And they're like, well, you can try, but you don't have to walk. And I'm fine with me. So we're going. And like literally, just as we're getting close to stop number 8, they radio in the guy and they're like, it's open now. And I got into stop number 8, where it's like this long river trail and so forth. And I was like, oh wow, that's amazing, that's great. I did my walk, and I was with nature, and animals were just drawn to me. You saw the picture, like little deer eating behind me. And the whole time I was just praying, like, God, give me a sign, help me remove any fears or doubts. I felt embarrassed. I was like, how can I go and tell Source I'm questioning them after so many miracles and things? But I was being honest. I was like, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. I don't know if it's a past life trauma or what my past lives did, but I wanna I wanna be closer with you. Please give me a sign and so forth. And it's exhausting when you're praying and meditating. It drains you. And I ended up needing to take a break, so I sat down and I was like, praying and catching my breath, drinking water. And then I looked up, and I'm not sure if I showed you the picture, but there was a cross, and everybody I've shown the picture, they're like, "That's a cross, dude." Just crazy the fact that you sat down and you're praying and you look up and the cross was right there. I didn't plan it. I didn't even know it existed. I just sat down, and then like I was kind of like going to look up and be like, "God, please help me." And then like I look up and I'm like, "What the f? Oh, is this a cross?" And then it's like it showed. I don't know if I can show you guys. Give me a quick second. Uh, I was showing it to one of my friends not too long ago, but it was just, the is one of those things where, it wasn't coincidence, it wasn't anything along the lines. It was just, it was right there at that, God wanted me to see and be reassured that, is there. And oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Oh,
if you
here we
can't,
go.
if you found it.
Yeah. So as you can
Oh
see,
wow, in the rocks.
yeah, on the rocks. So I was like, all right, thank you. And I went back. I did the trail and so forth, and then uh, ended up coming back. And great, I had dinner and so forth, and it was like pitch black. Zion, Springdale, the town that's right there in Zion, it's beautiful because they use halogen lights, and when it's nighttime, you can barely see anything. So I mean, it's both good and bad. If you have bad vision, you're gonna fall. But I was like, great, I can stargaze. I wanted to see, shooting stars, if anything. That was the last time I saw shooting stars was with my twin flame. And I was like, well, let me see some stargazing. I can't do it in LA. So I go back to Zion National Park, and I go like deep in the middle of nowhere, like deep, deep. There's no cars inside. Everything is pitch black. There's nothing there. The moon, the only source of light is the moon itself. That's kind of behind the mountain, and I'm, laying against my car, looking up, and I'm praying, and I'm thanking for everything that's been done for me, for protection and so forth, giving blessings for everything, even the smallest things like, thank you, God, for this cup of coffee. And, I asked God, if it be within your will, can you show me a shooting star? And I said it out loud. And I didn't say it with any expectation. I said it with hope. I'm hoping I can see something like that. I would love to see shooting stars. It's beautiful. And I was just looking at the sky, and maybe, I don't know, 2, 3 minutes pass by. This huge light just comes above me, like a meteorite just goes right above me in my field of vision, and it burns up right in front of me, like right there and then. Could have it? There's no way it's coincidence or whatever. That was divine timing. And I just felt this rush of energy. I was jumping, I was screaming, I was crying. Like literally, the mind is powerful, and uh, I needed reassurance from the universe, and the universe did that. So I was so thankful, like so very thankful. And it just gave me so much faith that, the universe listens. And if you need that in your life, if you need a little reassurance, ask. It's fine. It's, for the longest time, I felt embarrassed, ashamed. And, finally I said, no, I'm going to do it. And I did. And I came back a changed man, literally.
I love that so much, man. It's like, dude, I have such a mystical life. I thought I had such a mystical life. And it's like when I hear your stories, you have so many just interesting mystical experiences. It's
Oh,
awesome.
thank you.
These little synchronicities and stuff. So, as we kind of close it out here, so, you often mention, about showing light to others. What advice would you give to people who feel like they're stuck in darkness?
So when I was stuck in darkness, I was too, a little bit ashamed, a little bit prideful. So I'm not used to asking people for help, but I highly recommend ask help. If you're stuck in darkness, ask for help because there are people that care, that want to help. I know if somebody was to ask you for help, for guidance, you would do it in a heartbeat. Same with me. Not the world is not all cold. There are very good people out there that are ready and waiting to help, but we cannot force you until you make the first step. And I know the first step is the scariest thing to do, but ask for help and you will get help. If God does not answer you directly, you will get guided to somebody that will help you, that will give you the message that you need to hear. Um, or you might even see a beautiful animal that just out of nowhere becomes super affectionate to you. That's happened to me. That's what actually has helped me a lot. And I would go to Venice Beach and cry, and I'm like on my darkest points, and I'm like, oh my God, what would I do? What would I do? People's random dogs, which is like in 2 different occasions, running me like they were my pet, like they knew me. The pet owner screaming, I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry!" And the dog is just so happy to see me and like giving me kisses and so forth. And like I'm looking at the dog, and the dog is like with so much unconditional love.
Oh yeah.
I was like, "Thank you, thank you, God, thank you, angels." But yeah, please, I implore, ask for help, ask for guidance, and be open to it. Very important. Be open to it, and help will come.
Yeah, I love that so much, and I'd like to ask you, about your view on reality, like the spiritual path. I feel like it gives us and provides a lot of answers. It points us in the right direction, but I still feel like this life it's such a mystery, man. It's like we're just here and there's still so much unknown, you know what I mean? It's like spirituality, it points us in the right direction, but there's still so much unknown. So I'd like to ask you, so what's your view on the nature of reality, God, and the meaning of life?
I do think that there are different dimensions. So we're in the 3D dimension, right? And then 4D, 5D is more being able to see things that the human eye can't see, listen to frequencies that the normal ear can't hear. There are spirits, there are angels, there are things around us. It's just we're not at that capacity. We're not mentally there at that higher, being able to take that higher data that you can see, spirits and so forth. I mean, I think the only time I've been in my peak is when I'm like literally alarmed and I feel like my mind, body, and soul is fight or flight. So I'm seeing stuff and I'm smelling things and I'm rejecting things. um, I would like to see things, but not in a fight or flight. So I do think that there's higher dimensions out there. I do think that, there's life everywhere. Um, the universe is so big. And that's one of the reasons why I love stargazing, is just looking at the stars and just seeing what's out there. And, people ask, well, then where's heaven? Where's hell? I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I'm still learning. But so far, what I've read, what I've been able to translate has resonated with me and made sense. And there'll be people that don't agree with me or only agree fractionally, and that's totally fine. I like to agree to disagree as long as we can have healthy
Hmm.
conversations. and not be enemies at the end.
I love that so much. Okay, so kind of closing it out here. So, what's next for you on your spiritual journey? Do you have any plans or visions you feel called to pursue?
I I immediately knew at the end of last year that I needed to be in Japan for my birthday. So I got my ticket a long time ago to go with my twin flame, but we're broken up. So money wasted, but whatever. Uh, I'm going alone, and I just cool to help animals. This island called there's different cat islands, but there's this one particular where the elder people that live on the island they're passing away due to age, so the cats are pretty much they're abandoned without food and things. So I don't know, feel the urge to go there, and I do feel because it's going to be my third time visiting Japan. I do feel, and I've told you, I feel like I've lived Japan in another life. It's home to me. Uh, I'm barely learning the language, but it's been home, and I love the culture and things. So it's going there to see what more I can what I can what more I can uncover about my past, what more can help me relate more with people, with nature, with animals, and find like-minded people, help whoever I can, and of course, be able to get my love at a level where the cup is overflowing.
I love that so much. Yeah, I think Japan holds another piece to your puzzle for sure.
Yeah,
You going over there, you're gonna learn something. You're gonna figure something out. Okay, so yeah, closing it out here. Can you send the listeners out there just a final message of love and healing? Especially for the ones might be struggling out there.
sure. I wholeheartedly wish everybody love and light. I I ask you please be gentle on yourselves during these changing times. Even if you don't believe in astrology or spirituality, I mean, there are literally flares happening on the sun that's impacting communication. It's impacting our weather. Everything is being impacted. I mean, if you look at the ocean waves, they're impacted when there's full moons. You can see animals. So, these are sensitive times, and, just love yourself, forgive yourself. We're all beautiful souls. We're all beautiful spirits that we have some journeys are meant to do good, while other journeys we accepted to be the bad guy, to go to that low level, to teach people the lessons that their souls asked to be teach. So, at the end of the day, we're all good souls. We're all one. We're all with the collective, and you're not alone. You're not alone on your journeys. And, I ask you, please, like, reach out for help, guidance. The more people that I think can at least just, listen to one another, you won't feel alone, and you will actually see, like, all right, you know what, there is a door, and it's not just finding that little brim light that can lead you to the door. So, forgive those who hurt you, keep making repeated mistakes, forgive yourselves, love unconditionally, and unconditional love will heal this world.
I love that so much. Such beautiful words, such medicine. So I think that's a good place to close this out. So I want to thank you so much, Lucas, for meeting with me today. I want to, thank you for providing such great wisdom and insights on this episode. I also want to thank the listeners for sticking around to the end. So, let's keep in touch, man. Keep up the good
Yeah,
work and let's
thank
keep
you.
shining our light in this dark world.
Definitely, man. Thank you so much for having me.